I'm pretty happy with my performance overall. I think there was some criticism of some of the submission holds and things, but I think what the main thing people have to remember is that it's not a jiu-jitsu match anymore. You know, I am a jiu-jitsu competitor, you know, and have been for years, but I treat the sport of mixed martial arts completely differently. If you walk into the sport of mixed martial arts and treat it like it's a jiu-jitsu match, I think you're gonna run into trouble. So when I go for a submission hold in mixed martial arts, yeah, sure, I'm thinking about tapping my opponent or damaging my opponent, but at the same time, I'm also thinking about how is this particular submission hold, when it ends, where am I going to end up? Am I going to end up getting punched in my face repeatedly? Am I going to be in a bottom position that I can't get out of? Am I going to get stuck in some way? So there are times when I might be going after a submission hold and I may decide to let it go halfway through the submission hold because, man, it's not the right place to be at that given time in the fight. I might be able to take damage from that particular position. It might not be the smartest place, you know, for me to continue trying to go for a submission hold. I think a lot of, especially inexperienced mixed martial artists that may have come from a jiu-jitsu background, tend to get a little bit of tunnel vision because it's what they've been doing their whole life. I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade. So submitting somebody, it's like, all right, if I'm going after a leg, it's like, oh, okay, I got to keep going after this leg. I'm going to try to break the person. I'm already in the position. I may as well keep going belly down looking for the heel. But at the same time, it's like, well, he can punch me in the face. Like, I have to be smart about the way that I'm going to approach that. It might not be the right decision to like just continue chasing the submission hold. Maybe it's time to get up, exchange a little bit. We'll take him down again if we want to submit him again. So that would be the only thing that I say. It's like I felt pretty good about what I did, but I think that there's definitely some question marks from some other people like, oh man, you know, that guy doesn't come from a jiu-jitsu background. Why was it so hard for Garry to submit him, whatever the case may be? And that's all I would really say about that.
But you still dominated the fight, and you still did submit him in the third round.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that you got some criticism?
Yeah, I was. I was actually pretty surprised about the criticism for sure. It was a little weird for me. But yeah, I mean, I think I had a pretty dominant performance. I took a couple hits early and then maybe like at the end of the second round. But for the most part, I think like a lot of the stand-up I did pretty well too. Wasn't like a crazy amount of punches thrown. But yeah, I mean, and he was a much larger opponent too. Especially for mixed martial arts, it makes much more of a difference than it does in grappling. So I think I did really well, especially guys like, you know, I hate to be like the guy that constantly reminds people of this, but like, yeah, I'm 2-0, but I really, like, I'm 2-0 at professional, but like I've never had any amateur fights. This is literally my second fight ever. This was so if we did 3 rounds, we did 2 rounds last time. I mean, I've spent like maybe a grand total of like 20, 25 minutes somewhere in the cage, period. You know what I mean? So it's not a lot of time, you know? So I'm pretty happy with what I've been able to do. I'm always critical. I'm always thinking about how I can do better the next time. But like, man, for 2 fights and never have been doing this before my entire life, like I think we're doing okay. Pretty happy overall.
They expect you to be kind of like flawless.
Yeah.
Expected to submit the guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was telling people about this before. It's like you're never going to get away from criticism, and like I think one of the moments that I realized that, of course, I came up in the internet age anyway. It's like I've seen people shitting on people forever on the internet for the longest time. It's not like I'm new to that idea, but I think when I realized that like nobody really gets away from it is when I look at like George's Instagram, and he's like arguably like the greatest fighter of all time, and you see just as much shit talk, if not more, about his performances and the things that he does on his social media than any of us or up-and-coming athletes or anything like that. So like, I mean, if George St. Pierre is getting it or any other top-level athlete, I mean, why would I expect any different? You know what I mean? Why would I expect to be treated differently than those guys? Of course I'm gonna get criticism. The funny part for me is though, is I respond. So, you know, if somebody starts attacking me on the internet, I usually find some extra time in my day to either attack them back or, you know, present some other opposing argument or whatever the case may be, because it's fun for me. Like I said, I did grow up in that era, so.